share with you a few thoughts between Pesach and Shavuos. We stand now in the days between Pesach and Shavuos. What are we supposed to focus on? So obviously, right, Pesach is a time when Klal Yisrael came out of Mitzrayim. It wasn't only physical labor, but it was also Klal Yisrael became the Am HaNivchar, became the Am Tzigula. When we came out of Mitzrayim, the Maharal asks, he says, we came out of Mitzrayim, so now we're not slaves, but what happened? Look at history. There were the Crusaders and the Nazis and all different types of tzaras and things that we went through. So what do we gain by leaving Mitzrayim? And he says that the main point of leaving Mitzrayim was not so much that we are not slaves anymore, but that we became Ba'am HaNivchar. We had a Hisroimus HaNefesh. We became different people, the chosen people. We're focused on bringing HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Kedusha into the world. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. And that tells us that from Pesach to Shavuos, obviously, bringing HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Kedusha to the world requires the Nesinas HaTorah. So that really is what we have to focus on, is preparing ourselves to reach the level that we're supposed to be Makabel the Torah. But there's another point that I really want to talk about. And if we understand what Pesach is, so then we'll look at it maybe a little bit differently. Father came to the Chazon Ish, and he asked him, what should I focus on Pesach at night? By the Seder, I have all my children there, and it's an opportunity to pass on a very important message, and that's what the night is all about, from a father to son, grandfather to grandchild. What should I talk about? And the Chazon Ish said, talk about Emunah. As the Ramban tells us, that Yetzias Mitzrayim is the foundation of Emunah. That's why Shabbos connects to Yetzias Mitzrayim, because Shabbos is the day that HaKadosh Baruch Hu rested in Sheishis and Mebreshis. It brings out the Brias HaOlam. And Yetzias Mitzrayim is when HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed us his strength, his power, his ability. HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed us he created the world. So Pesach, every year we're there to reinstate and to again declare to ourselves and pass on from child to son the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu exists. So that's part of what we need to do, is to strengthen our emunah till we reach Shavuos. You know, the Gemara tells us that Klal Yisrael came to Har Sinai and HaKadosh Baruch Hu kofel of Har Kegigis. HaKadosh Baruch Hu forced us, took the mountain, detached it, and put it on top of our heads, said, if you don't accept the Torah, so then I'm going to drop the mountain and you'll all suffocate to death. The Meshech Chacham explains that it doesn't mean literally. It means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself, that Klal Yisrael saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so they had no choice. Normally a person doesn't see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Our job in the world is to find him, and he conceals himself. But when Klal Yisrael came from Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself, and everyone saw him and experienced him, and so they had no choice. They had to be Makabel the Torah. They had to admit to the Metzias of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's part of our arbit, part of our avodah, our work that we need to do from Pesach to Shavuos, is to strengthen our emunah, and then we can be Makabel the Torah and understand this is what the Bari wants from us. What does the HaKadosh Baruch Hu want from us? That he created the world. He wants us to bring the Torah to the world, to be Makadosh the world through the Torah. So I want to bring out a few points that are in different svarim, maybe a few stories, that could work on this chizuk. The Chofetz Chaim talks barichis about seeing HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the Bria. The Rambam also does. And he starts off with a simple example. One looks at the process of how a baby comes to this world. You can see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You don't need to look very far. You look at a baby, he's in the mother's womb for 9 months, develops, everything is taken care of him, there's a placenta, an embryonic sac. And then when he is all ready to come out, boom, it happens to be that the mother starts having contractions, and then her womb opens, and the baby comes out. And then all of a sudden there's milk that HaKadosh Baruch Hu provides through the mother. and that milk has all the nutritional values that are necessary for the child. As a matter of fact, they even discovered today that when a child nurses from his mother, when the baby comes out, there's a wound that's created in the mother's body, and it helps heal the wound as the baby nurses from the mother. So if you just look at that process, says the Chofetz Chaim, you'll see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You don't really need to go far. They say that Einstein was very moved. And he said you can see HaKadosh Baruch Hu from a very simple fact. When water freezes, it expands. If you put a bottle of water into the freezer and it's full, don't do it, because what will happen is that it will expand and it will break the bottle, and it can explode in your face. So why is this? Why does water expand? So the reason for that is because what happens is in the winter it gets very cold and the rivers freeze. If the water would not expand, so what would happen is that the cold air would penetrate through the whole body of all the rivers, and then the whole river would freeze and all the fish would die. What happens is that the cold air first comes to the top layer of the river, and then that water turns into ice, but it expands. When it expands, it becomes a protective level, a protective shield on all the water underneath, and all the fish stay alive. The Welt says that Einstein said this is a proof that there's a Ribono Shel Olam in the world, because it doesn't make sense. Why should it expand? But you see that that's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu developed in his system a way to protect the fish. These are just a few examples. There are thousands and millions and billions of examples where a person who just knows a little bit could, if he looks properly, could see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the question really is, the Chofetz Chaim gives another example. He says if somebody would take a picture on the wall, take a Rembrandt, and beautiful picture with all the nuances, and I'll ask them, how did this picture come to the world? So I'll say, well, somebody took a bucket of paint, spilled it onto the wall, and this one came out. So any sane person would say, that's crazy, that's not possible. It's not possible, that will never happen when you take a bucket of paint and throw it on the wall. Says the Chofetz Chaim, so take the Brias HaOlam, the world, so much more complicated and so much more chachma in it. How could it be that it just happened by itself? It's impossible. It's not possible. So any thinking, sane person should look in the Bria and see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Rabbi Chanan Wasserman asked a question. So why are there so many atheists in the world? Why is it there are so many people who don't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu? It's so simple. Just look at your body. Just look around and you'll see. And Rabbi Chanan says, I'll say it in Yiddish and then I'll translate it. He said, "Weil sie haben Steine in Kopf." So it's because they have stones in the head, which in today's language, it means they block it out. There's a psychological block that people want to block it out. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to look at the truth. And the question is why? Why are people blocking out the Metzias HaBoyer when it's so simple and so obvious? And the answer is also very simple. Because once one acknowledges that there's a boyer in the world, so the next obvious question for any thinking person is, why? Why did somebody make the world? Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu make the world? What's the purpose of it? There must be some purpose in it. And they'll have to come to the conclusion, as the Ramban says in the end of Parshas Bo, Ein lanu tam acher bebrias ha'olam, ela, that we should all acknowledge HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'noimar briyosecha anachnu, we should say, you made us, and we should thank him and acknowledge him and promote the Malchus Yisbarach in the world. And that means that I'm restricted and I can't do what I want. Every person has a natural tendency. He wants to do what he wants. He wants to be independent. He doesn't want to be told what to do. And if a person thinks and he understands, there must be a Boirei Olam, but he wants something from me, so that means I have to do it his way, not my way. It means I have to do certain things, and no one wants to do that. So the easiest way out of that is just to block it out, to have stones in your head, not to think, not to want to find the truth, and then I'm free to whatever I want. But the truth is, in anyone who really looks objectively and is not looking, who takes the stones out of his head, takes away, goes to a therapist and takes the block out of his head. You know what happens? We'll see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Avraham Avinu was the first person in the world who started this process. He was looking and searching, and he couldn't find HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Then he figured it out, and then Chazal tell us, Hitzitz Bal Abira. HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked at him and revealed himself and started talking to Avraham Avinu. Every Yid, could be even every person, but every Yid for sure, has this midah. If you'll go and you'll search and you'll look for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're going to find him, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to reveal himself to you. Not at the same level of Avraham Avinu, but you'll have that siyata d'shmaya of Habol L'Tayr Messiah and Oysa. You'll have the siyata d'shmaya that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help you in this process. What we need to do is to want it. We need to do is to understand that I want a higher goal for my life. I don't want to just live a life of freedom, doing just everything and anything, and not really enjoying life, but convincing myself that I am. I want to have a higher level. I want to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this is one aspect of one way we can see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But there's another way we could see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We say every Shabbos in Psukei de Zimra, Lamnatzeach mizmor leDavid, Hashamayim esapin kvoid kel. You want to see the Rebbeinu Shalom? Look at the Bria, look at the sky, look at the moon, look at the sun. V'chol haaretz yotzakavim, v'tzei sevel mileim, Lashem esam oil bohem, v'ukechasen yoytzim uchupasu. Just look at the Bria, you'll see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Then all of a sudden we say, Toiras Hashem temima mishivas nafesh, Eidus Hashem nemana machinas pesi. We have a whole long description of the Torah. Where does that come in? And the Mefarshim explained there's another way to see Hashem. You can see HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the Torah. Through the Torah, you can experience HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this goes in many, many different facets and many, many different levels. First, just from the Chachma of the Torah. The Chachma of the Torah is a tremendous amount of Chachma. I used to learn with a lawyer. He became a very active person in politics. He was the president of the President's Conference. And he told me that one of the Siyamei Hashas, he decided he knew all these rich, successful, not religious businessmen. He wanted to show them there's such a thing as the firm world, the Olam HaTorah. So he said, I'll bring them to the Siyamei Hashas. So he called up the Agudah, and he asked them, could we arrange some type of VIP arrangement for them so they'll feel comfortable? Of course, they paid B'Kesef Mole. And he arranged it, he brought them there, and then he said to himself, if I did this, I have to start learning Daf Yomi. I can't just bring them to the Siyam Hashas. And he started learning Daf Yomi, and he was a Baal Tshuva, very, very bright person. He's not alive anymore. And he told me that he never realized how intricate and difficult and all the details and the Havana there is in finishing Shas. And he started having a new appreciation for what Talmidei Chachamim are, people who spend their whole life working on Shas and knowing Shas. So we just look around in the Chachmas HaTorah, you can see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But there's another point that I want to bring out. The Torah refines someone. And if you look just even at simple Yidden, and of course, at Talmidei Chachamim, you'll see a character level that is impossible to reach without the Torah and doesn't exist in any other ummah. There's no other nation that has such a thing. I'll just demonstrate it with a small story. I don't know if it happened, but it could have happened. But there was a story going around about 15 years ago. There was a Yerushalmi Yid that came to America to collect money. And as you know, people go. He goes from door to door, has a piece of paper, letter of recommendation. Sometimes he has 2 or 3. He goes into the house, says a story, and people give him, some people give 18, some people give 1, some people give 100, some people give 250. And he collected a whole pile of checks. And at some point, he was on the highway, and they were stopped by the police, and they were asking for his papers. And somehow they saw this pile of checks. And it seemed very suspicious. The person over there have checks like from all over the place. What is this? So they decided they're going to go from every single check and call the people and ask them, how did your check get to this man? And they called every single person. Did you write this check to him? Looks at this thing. Yes, I wrote the check. Do you know him? No. Why'd you write the check? What do you mean? He came, he needs money. He's a Yid. I gave him the money. And they went from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And they couldn't believe such a thing, that people will give money to someone they don't know and have no idea, nice amounts of money. This is only something that exists in college. Without a Torah, it's impossible to reach such levels of people, such Ava and Achva and Reyes and Midas of Chesed. So if you just look at what the Torah does to us, you'll see that the Torah is a holy book. The Torah is something that transforms people. This is part of our work between Pesach and Sukkot. In Gedolei Yisrael, it's on a much higher level. I'll tell you two stories. One with the Chofetz Chaim and one with Rabbi Chaim Brisker. The Chofetz Chaim, you're probably not surprised that there's a story of Tzidkis, but I'm assuming you probably heard of Rabbi Chaim, who was considered the biggest intellect in the past 150 years, and you'll hear about his chesed, and something that is unimaginable. The story with the Chofetz Chaim is, he had a relative who was about 16 or 17 years old, who was traveling, and it was close to Shabbos, and he saw that he wasn't going to reach his destination, and he was going then in a horse and a bus. He was going on the train, but he saw that he would not make it, so he got off in the closest train station to Radin. And he said, oh, I have a cousin, the Chofetz Chaim, so I'll go spend Shabbos with him. And he got off, and he hired a horse and buggy, came to the Chofetz Chaim's house a little bit before Shabbos, and the Chofetz Chaim said to him, you must be very tired from the journey. Why don't you lay down for a few minutes, take a nap, and then we'll go to shul. So he went to sleep, took a little nap, woke up. He sees the Chofetz Chaim is sitting by the table, and he said, oh, should we go to shul? Chofetz Chaim said, you overslept a little bit. I went to shul, I came back, you'll daven here, you were very tired, and then we'll sit down to the Suda. Fine, okay. He davens, Chofetz Chaim calls his Rebbetzin, and they sit down to the Suda. After the Suda, he couldn't fall asleep. And so he was laying in bed, tossing this way and that way. Finally, he went into the kitchen. He sees there's a clock there, and the clock says 4 a.m. And he figured the clock must be broken because we just finished the Suda, so it must be about 9 o'clock. Well, he went back to sleep. He gets up in the morning, looks at the clock. It says 7:30. The Rebbetzin is in the kitchen, and he asked her, where's the Chofetz Chaim? So he went to shul already. He said, why did you go to shul? But the clock says 7:30, it's broken. She said, oh, no, okay, I have to tell you the truth. He said, you went to sleep, and you woke up at 2 a.m. Chofetz Chaim said, you can't wake him up. If he's tired, he woke up at 2 a.m, and she had eaten already. The Chofetz Chaim said he's going to wait to make Kiddush. He woke her up, and they put on a show for him, as if it was 8 o'clock. And Chofetz Chaim ate a Suda at 3 a.m, and that's why he couldn't fall asleep, because he had slept already for so many hours. And Mimela, now it's really 7:30 in the morning. This is only one of many, many stories of the Chofetz Chaim. You know, there was a famous court case. There was a bacher in Radin who they accused him of theft, and the Chofetz Chaim went to testify about his character. So the judge, the lawyer, the Chofetz Chaim's lawyer, said to the judge, do you know who this is? And this man, they say, that if somebody comes and steals something from his house, he runs after him and he says, it's hefker, you could have it machalach, it's hefker. So the judge said to him, you really believe that story? He said, no, but on me and you, they don't tell such stories. But I can tell you that the story is true. That's what he said to the judge. The story is true. That's what the Chofetz Chaim would do. It's impossible to reach such heights of moral character if somebody doesn't have the Kedusha of the Torah. The last story I'll tell you is the one with Reb Chaim which is not so known that he was a tremendous Baal Chesed, that's all he did all day. Reb Chaim Oizer, who was one of the Gedolei Yisrael who came from Vilna, he came to visit Reb Chaim Brisker in Brisk, and he got delayed, and his train came in at 3 in the morning. And he didn't know, could he go in, can't he go in, it's 3 in the morning. So he saw there were shutters from the outside. He figured he'll peek in and he'll see what's going on. It seemed like there was a light inside. He picked up the shutters and he sees Reb Chaim sitting there with 2 babies, holding 2 babies. One baby he's feeding and the other baby he's rocking to calm the baby down. Seemed like a very strange scene for 3 o'clock in the morning. He knocked on the door. Reb Chaim answered, "Oh, Reb Chaim Oizer, Shalom Aleichem." And so they spoke for a while, and then Reb Chaim Oizer said, "Listen, I have to ask you this. Can you explain to me what's going on?" He said, "Yeah, very simple." Reb Chaim had a minig. At times, he had 30 to 40 babies. They were illegal babies, babies that women could not take care of. Sometimes they were mamzerim, the husbands weren't around, they were mezaneh, all different types and stripes. And they used to take the baby, whoever couldn't take care of the baby, put it by Reb Chaim's door, and he would take care of them. He would hire Menikos ladies to nurse them, and it was his responsibility to take care of them. He had a tremendous budget. He used to go raising money. And these are 2 twins, mothers that can't take care of their kids, don't want to throw their kids at the Rav's door in the middle of the day. It's embarrassing. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, he hears a knock at the door, and the lady runs away, and he goes to the door, and he sees these 2 twins. So he brings them in. There was no one else around at 3 o'clock in the morning. He brings them in, and he said they probably were traumatized, however you want to say it, because of what just happened. They were thrown away, and they were hungry. So he was feeding one and calming down the other one while he was able to feed that child. It's impossible to reach such a level without the Kedushas Torah. So our avodah in these days now is to take the emunah that we brought in on Pesach and take that emunah and elevate it. Look, search for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Take the steiner out of our heads, take the stones out of our head, take the block out of our head. Say, I want to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If we want to find him, it's not hard to find him. You look in the Bria, you look in the Torah, you'll learn Torah, you'll experience the Kedusha of the Torah, and then you'll come to Shavuos a different person. You'll come to Shavuos person who is connected and wants to be connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We should all be zoiche that all the wonderful bachim in the yeshiva and the wonderful staff that puts in so much koiches and so much effort to help every single bacher the way what's good for him, should all be zoiche to have siyata d'shmaya, should be zoiche to grow, should be zoiche to steig, should all be zoiche to be makabel pnei Mashiach tzidkeinu,